Welcome to the Muffin Madrina. This is the Muffin Madrina moment, and I am excited that you're here with us this evening. And thank you for joining us. And you're probably wondering why the Muffin Madrina moment. We are actually doing this because I, the Muffin Madrina, I see you guys on Saturday mornings, and we do muffins together and explore how these muffins, healthy muffins that I want to try out, because as you guys know, I'm trying to be healthier in 2021. But I wanted to take a moment to have time with people that have been in my lives at different points in my lives and just be genuine and be real with you guys and talk about different topics. So today we're going to be talking about what is called a lasting relationship. And I'm going to get you to have meet my madrina of my wedding. And so my madrina, her name is Sandra. Hi, Sandra.
Hello.
How are you this evening?
Wonderful. Thank you. How are you?
Great. So if you're trying to comment or say anything to us, just let you know there's a slight little lag. So we might not be able to see everything on here to let you know and respond. But please make sure to make any comments and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Now, if you're watching this right now, please share it, hit like, let your friends know that we're on live right now, because we're going to be talking about some great, interesting areas about lasting relationships. So, Sandy, let's talk about how we got to know each other. Just to let you guys know, this year in 2021, in a couple of months, my husband and I will be turning 25 years married, and Sandra was part of that. And so, Sandy, why don't you tell us how you and I got to meet?
Well, in 1995, I started coming to the church that you and Frank both attended in Holyoke. And I came at a very difficult time in my life. And that's where we met. I met you guys there. I met your family. I met a lot of wonderful people. And that was I believe in 1995.
Awesome. Yes. So I remember when you first got there at the church, I believe that year I was around 21 years old. And one of the things growing up in a church for a long time, you get to see new people. And I was in college. I think it was almost in my last year of college, wrapping up at Mount Holyoke College. And if those of you that don't know Holyoke, that's in Massachusetts, the 413. So I know we've got some Massachusetts fans out there watching us right now. So hello. And one of the things that was really interesting that I saw of Sandra was she was always smiling. She was always happy, very engaging with people. And I always observed about her that she always was happy, and her communication with her husband at that time and just how she went about doing things. And I always thought about, okay, I know they don't want to keep the tradition of having a madrina or padrinos in my wedding. And for those of you that don't know what that is, a set of padrinos is normally a couple or individuals that tend to be sometimes a little bit older than you. And you have different reasons why you pick a madrina and padrinos. And I wanted to keep the tradition as far as having that in my Spanish wedding. And mind you, my wedding party wasn't small. I think there was like 22 of us. But one of the things that I saw about Sandy was her relationship with her husband at that time. It was always a good conversation. She was very expressive. And, growing up in the church and trying to see who could I connect with. And, I was doing things a little bit different at that time, just because, I was going to be having a wedding, which was off-site. It was not at my home church. It was somewhere else. We had to pick a venue. And so I knew that Sandra had done those kind of things, but I really connected her in that level, and I wanted her to be part of it. So Sandra, how did you feel when we approached you and said, hey, would you like to guys be our padrinos, or you be my madrina?
Well, actually, in the Hispanic community, for those of you that are Hispanic, to be asked to be a part of, or to serve as a madrina, a padrino, it's an honor, it's a blessing. It's usually, a lot of times, it's usually a family member. I know when I got married, my padrinos, so my madrina and my padrino, were my sister. I saw, like you, I saw the way she interacted with her husband, their relationship, how she was as a wife, as a friend, as a sister. And I thought that's a good, role model that I want to follow after. And to be asked to be your madrina it's almost like, honestly, it's humbling. It's such an honor. And it's almost like asking you to be a part of their family. So I was very humbled. I was very honored when you had asked us to take that part, especially since it hadn't been that long that we had known each other.
Exactly. So yes, and that is true. One thing that Sandra mentioned said sometimes you pick madrinas or padrinos that you've known for a very long time. And in this case, we only knew ourselves for maybe a year, the year that you were there at the church. But, and Frank and I, when we were planning these things, we felt a connection with you at that time and wanted to make sure that we had the right folks. And even though we don't constantly communicate all the time with each other, it feels like every time we do connect, it's almost like we know each other. We're family. We just pick up and go.
Right.
But one of the things that I also saw about you was how the type of fighter that you were. I know that you've gone through several things in your life that have tested you in having long-lasting relationships. Do you mind sharing us? I know that one of them dealt with how you dealt with that you couldn't conceive or be pregnant. Can you share us a little about your testimony?
Yes, I'd love to. I was actually about 30. I was turning 30. And my husband at the time and I were trying to conceive. We figured we have a great marriage. Every woman dreams of getting married, having a family. That's kind of like the norm, especially I think in the Spanish community. A lot of times we're brought up to believe that, you get married, you have a family, you're a good wife, and so that was something that I had always wanted. And I never was able to conceive. And about 30, when I was 30, I remember getting a lot of headaches and thinking that's weird. And I thought maybe it's because I'm on the computer a lot because of the job that I had. And so when I actually went and got tested, it happened that I had a brain tumor. And because of the brain tumor, it was keeping me from getting pregnant because it was on the pituitary gland, which is the gland that affects all the other glands. And so it was sending off signals to my body like I was ready to nurse a baby, so I couldn't get pregnant. And that's when I came to church, looking to see, I remember growing up as a Catholic, and then my husband at that time had gone to the Christian church, and so he began to go to the church, and and I kind of was torn between what I was brought up to serve and what he was doing. But I remember one time my mom said, you need to, if you want God to do something for you, you've got to serve him, whether in the Catholic church or in the Pentecostal church. And I began to go to church and learn about faith and the miracles that God could perform. And so in doing that, I was prophesied one time that that God was going to bless me with a child. But at the same time, I was being told that I would never have kids. And so lo and behold, I chose to believe what God had told me. And I kept confessing and trusting in his word. And 4 years later, 4 years after giving my heart to the Lord, he healed me of the brain tumor. And then 4 years after that, he gave me a daughter. And I have two.
So yes. So not only do you have one daughter, you actually have two.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, that is wonderful because, sometimes we go through life and situations and, sometimes you mentioned earlier, I believe that you said that you felt that you were broken, that, you were just fighting with your emotions of, wanting and desiring to have a child. but not, science was saying that you couldn't have a child because of that tumor. Yet you still kept believing that one day you would have a child, and it came through. Tell me a little bit about what other areas where you tried in your lasting relationships and the relationships that you had during your life.
Well, I've always been a person that I still keep in touch with people from junior high school, from high school. I am the type of person that when I create or when I have a relationship, I make lifelong relationships, because I think it's important that it's not, my now husband always says that some people come into your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. And I love lifetime friends, and it's like you said something, that is really important, that even though you and I don't speak all the time, when we do speak, it's as if we never stopped communicating. If that time hadn't gone by. And that's what's important, is that you can always, a friend isn't someone that you talk to every day. To me, a friend isn't someone that you see every day. To me, a friend is someone that when you do see them, it's as if you never stop seeing them, and that you can love each other and reach out and be there for one another, even through the miles. And so I have a lot of friends that I've had for 30, 40 years, people that I have grown up with. So I think that that's important, that we make those, try and have those relationships, because to me, those are the most valuable ones, those that are lifetime friends.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I've had different friends at different points in my life. And I've had some that are for the very long season, and then some for just a specific season. So I completely agree with you and understand that sentiment. Just because, and I sometimes know that sometimes people struggle. Either they say, I don't have anybody to talk to or hang out with, or, but then at the same time, I felt myself at certain points that it's okay if I don't have everybody surrounding me. I could probably be a blessing to someone else and help someone else if I just said, hello, how are you doing? Right.
Yes.
Well, so one of the things I remember was when we went to go check out and taste our cake, you introduced us to that cinnamon spice flavor. Do you remember that?
Yes.
When we went cake testing?
Yes. That's like
so
my
you took
favorite.
us out of our comfort zone.
Oh.
And till this day, just recently, we did a little cake, spice cake, and Frank was like, "Oh my gosh, I remember our cake."
Yes, and it's funny because I think that was the last time I've had that apple. What was it, like apple spice or something?
Yes, really?
Yes.
Wow.
I don't know why. It's like I haven't seen it, or it hasn't. I mean, I'm sure I could order it, but yes, I remember that.
Okay, wow, that's great. So if you're just joining us right now, this is the Muffin Madrina moment. I'm the Muffin Madrina, and my guest today is Sandra, who's my madrina. So go ahead and, pick up a chair, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and join us as we talk about lasting relationships. So what are the things, Sandra, we talked about, beginning part of your life as far as when you got to church, the promises that have been fulfilled in your life. Could you share with us at a point where you also felt broken, just to encourage other people and how they dealt with things in their lives?
Absolutely. I think all of us have, in one time or another, felt that brokenness, felt that the sadness. And I was actually with my girl's dad, my ex-husband, we were married for about 21 years, together for 25. My best friend, great husband, but he wasn't the best dad. And after 21 years, after praying for children, and getting the prayers answered, our marriage broke up. Not everyone wants to have children, and I think that he wanted to have children because I wanted to have children. Mm-hmm. And so I felt that was probably one of the most difficult times. Here I am with two little girls. I had a 4 and a 7-year-old. You think, you're at a place in your life where you think everything is great. You have the home, you have, the car, you have the husband, you have the wife, you have the kids, everything seems perfect. But it wasn't. And so, in 2000 and I want to say 2010, about a week before Christmas, 2010, he left the home. And that was a difficult, very difficult for me, because I thought, how do you, raise two children by yourself? And I know that I wasn't the first woman that would have to do it, or the last. But when you get into a marriage, you don't think of it ending like that. I mean, I would hope, that no one gets into a marriage thinking that that's where it's going to end up. And so at that point, I felt broken.
Yes.
I felt abandoned. I felt, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? What didn't I do? And that was a difficult, very difficult time for me.
Understand. So even though you went through that transition of divorce, share with folks that might be facing the areas, like, how did you overcome it? I mean, I know that it was not, como se dice in Spanish, de la noche a la mañana.
Right.
But what was it that helped you? Were there relationships that you had that kind of helped you through that process? Or was there not? Because I know sometimes, people abandon people, right? It's part of our nature. Sometimes either we're there or we're not there. Or sometimes people walk around us in eggshells, not knowing what to say, how to be supportive. Or they say, oh, you got to keep orando, right? But sometimes some of those things, it is good to do that. But then sometimes we need something else. So what worked for you? What was your moment in where you kind of said, okay, I got to pick this up and I'm going to be the warrior woman that I need to be?
Well, first, of course, it was my girls. I knew that no matter what, I had to fight, and I was going to be okay for them. For no other reason, I knew I was going to be okay for them, because they had lost one parent. They weren't going to lose another one to depression or sadness or, the feeling of abandonment. So I knew that was one of the things that really helped me. But I also started actually with Maria, a women's group, which was outside of church, outside of, the church. And we actually, every year we would go to a women's conference called the Women of Faith Conference. And that conference, we would always go. And so it started off with a few women, and then it started kind of like every year we had more women joining us. And so one year during the conference, we had a male speaker. Usually it was all women speakers. And this one year we had a male speaker, and he came on and he started talking about how, he loved to be around all these women. He said, because they remind me of monkeys. And we thought, that's interesting, and he said, wait, let me finish. And so I would explain.
Take it personal, what, right?
Well, I think a lot of us did, because we thought, well, what's that supposed to mean? But he said, I think he noticed, because he said, wait a minute, let me finish. So he went on to say how, they had done a study, with monkeys, where a monkey, they took one monkey and they put him in this like stressful environment, and the monkey's stress level went up 50%. They took a second monkey and put it in the cage. That, a second monkey, they kind of familiar with each other. They put the two monkeys together in the cage, and their stress level went down 50%. And he said, and that's how women are. Women are the type that no matter what they've gone through, the whole week, the whole year, whatever their life is what's going on in their life, when they come together, it's almost like they forget about everything that they're going through. They can come together and somehow comfort each other and encourage each other just by being in the presence of one another.
That is true.
And so that's why women remind me, and they had done a study, I think it was in UMass, that they did that they said that when women get together, it's more therapeutic and more beneficial than actually working out at the gym for an hour. So yeah, and I said, okay, well then I don't have to go to the gym. I'll just hang out with women all the time.
That was a good
So
excuse.
right. And so after that, that weekend, my friend Maria kept saying, hey, you're my monkey sister. You're my monkey sister. And so we created this group, and we said, I said, we need to do this more than once a year, because we made a weekend out of it. And I said, we need to do this more than once a year. Why don't we get together once a month? Let's fellowship. We'll do it in someone's home, in a different home every month, so that nobody feels like we're trying to recruit them for church, or we're trying to recruit them for our church. And so, and we'll do potluck, because women like to eat. And so that's what we did. And so in those groups and that fellowship, I got such an encouragement. I was, and I dove into the word. I dove into my relationship with God, because greater than any relationship that I can have with anyone is my relationship with God.
Yes.
And so that's where I kind of found my strength, but in other women, being around positive women, like-minded women who would encourage me and not discourage me.
Yeah, I agree with that. In my experience, I tend to have a small circle. I don't know if I would do it similar to you, but I do have moments in time in my experience that I'll have a couple of friends or a very close friend. And even when we were doing Cultivadores Church, we used to have something called Desayuno Entre Amigas. And so always trying to connect with other women, to kind of be able to be supportive. And it's true that when you are with someone else, you are able to either share your fears, share your joys, and you have a great time laughing and just being fun and being yourself.
Right.
And I've had my own personal struggles as well, of trusting people in general. Sometimes I've developed areas in where, hey, you burn a bridge, but how will that work out? But, I'm going to make sure, because I know my family's watching this, and some people from back home in Massachusetts. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. But I'm going to make sure that I don't cry, because Lordy has always been famous to have some tears here and there. I don't know if you remember, Sandra, even that happened to me while I was in church when I was speaking the front.
Yes.
But I agree with you, Sandra. To have lasting relationships, sometimes it takes work. At the end of the day, it takes work.
Yes.
And like what you mentioned, you also had to work in your relationship with God, and spend time with Him. And it's the same thing. When we have friends, or if you're in a relationship, in a couple's relationship, you have to choose to love every day. It's not something that's going to be automatic, because we're about to be 25 years, and those 25 years haven't been easy. They've been great. But it's not when you planning the wedding, when you and I were together and picking things in the dresses and, being the awesome madrina. We always think it's that one day is the big thing, and we forget that there's many eons of years after that, right?
Right.
And the honeymoon will somewhat be over, right? You just do it a different way. But you shouldn't stop having your honeymoon. You shouldn't stop having date nights and things like that. So Sandra, talk about us now. What is Sandra, all those things happened in the past. What is Sandra, my madrina, doing now? Where is she at?
Oh boy, where do I start? How much time do we have?
Oh, we have a couple more minutes or so.
Okay. Well, after my divorce, I actually decided, okay, we had bought a house, a beautiful house in Wilbraham, the suburbs, because that's where I wanted my kids to go to school. I wanted the girls to have a good school system. And so we bought a house. So after the divorce, I kind of had to take a come to Jesus moment. Do I want to still live in this home, in this great town, and be a slave to my home? Or I can move back to my mother's house, take a couple of steps backwards. And you know what? For those of you that are watching, it's okay sometimes to not be okay. It's okay to have to take a couple of steps backwards. I had to. And, sometimes when you work so hard to get to a certain place, to take a few steps back is very painful. It's painful.
Mhm.
It's sad. It's hurtful. Our pride gets bruised because you think, my God, I worked so hard to get here, and to have to go back. What are people going to think? How does that look?
El que
But,
dirán.
I'm sorry.
The phrase el que dirán.
Yeah. What will they say? And I had to think, you know what? It doesn't matter what they say. I have to do what I have to do for me and my children. And so I moved back to my mom's, where I grew up, the house that I grew up in. I had left my mom's house with no children, and I returned with 2 kids, 2 little girls.
Yeah.
My dad had already passed away by then, so it was my mom by herself. So it was my mom, myself, and my 2 girls. Because I said, you know what, I can be a slave to my home, and be in a good in a good town with a good school system, or I can move back to my mom's house and put my girls in the school that I had always wanted to have my kids in, which was a private Christian school. And I remember driving by this school before even having kids and saying, I would love my kids to go to that school. So I said, and it was a battle, because I think, will I be able to keep them in that school, because it's not free? You think, am I making the right choices? It was hard. It was one of the most horrible times in my life, because the decisions that I had to make, am I making the right decision? And so I moved back to my mom's. And so fast forward, I decided, okay, I'm going to go back to school. So I went back to school. I've always liked sign language.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I went in, I did some deaf studies, loved it. And, but I remember during Christmas, one of the girls that was in school with me, she said, let's take one of those intercessory courses. And it was like one of those full semesters in like 12 days. So I took that course, and it was online, and I wouldn't date. I'd been alone for about 3 years. I wouldn't date, because I wouldn't date until I was divorced, because I kept saying, in order for God to honor a new relationship, I've got to finish, be done with this other relationship. And so I finally filed for divorce. After 3 years, I got divorced. I go take these classes. I've always been a Dunkin' Donuts girl, but
oh yeah, that's sure. Dunkin' Donuts everywhere.
Yeah, but there was a Starbucks. Dunkin' Donuts doesn't give you free Wi-Fi, and I needed Wi-Fi because my mom didn't have it. So I said, well, I'll go to Starbucks. And so I started going to Starbucks 5 hours a night. After I get out of work, I'd go get the girls ready, feed them, go to Starbucks. And while I was at Starbucks, one evening, this guy shows up, walks in. I had seen him there before, but I was so into just getting this done.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So he comes in, sits down, starts talking to me, and I'm thinking, oh my God, can you please stop? I've got so much work to do. Well, lo and behold, comes to find out he was somebody that I had gone to school with, junior high school, as a matter of fact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We reconnected. We started getting to get to know each other again. That was actually 10 days after my divorce was final. So on January 13, we reconnected, and we married December 13 of 2014. So we got married 12/13 of 14.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And I was always told I'd be a pastor's wife, and I thought, no, that's not quite for me. Well, my husband is an archbishop. He's got many, many, many churches. Right now we are, it's funny though. I have to say that before he and I reconnected, I made a list. I said, Lord, if you're going to give me a new husband, these are the things that I need to see in him. I put like 7 things on my list.
Yep.
Each and every one of those things is my husband. And I thought I could never possibly find all these things. And so, but I remember saying, Lord, if I can't, if he doesn't have all these things on this list, this is not the person for me. And I said, I will not settle and I will not compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I remember right before reconnecting with him, I reconnected with another old friend. All the things that I wanted, except for like one or two things. And when I saw that, I said, nope, that's not the one. Mm-hmm. And that was hard because, you know how the Bible says that the enemy comes in sheep's clothing, a wolf comes in sheep's clothing to rob, steal, and destroy. And that's one thing that we have to be careful for, because sometimes we become desperate and we settle.
Yes, so, that is true.
Yes. Yeah. At first it's like, no, I'm not going to settle. But then as time goes by, we sometimes settle for things that we didn't think we would settle for. And that's when we kind of go on and do our own thing. And then we live to regret it because we don't wait on God.
And that's it. Yeah. And that's important in a relationship. When we're creating relationships of, you don't want to settle, and making sure what are those things that we are wanting and looking for. Right. And sometimes, we feel that like, as women or just as men, because this is not just for the women, this is for the men too. We're like, everybody else is getting married, everybody else is having kids. What's going on?
What about me?
Se me fue el tiempo, however they say it in Spanish. I forget some phrases. Yeah. But when the person comes, it's going to be right for you. And there's just going to be some of us that, we're chosen to be in those kind of relationships, and others may not be in the relationship. We see a lot of characters in the Bible who actually weren't married and had great lives and things and everything. Yeah. So just to kind of wrap up a few more minutes that we have here, tell me about what is your favorite scripture in the Bible, and how do you have that part of your life?
I think I'd have to say my favorite scripture. I have a lot of them. A lot of them, because it's almost like when I was going through this one ministered to me. When I was going through this one ministered to me. So, they ministered, different ones have ministered in such a way to me. So I have a lot of favorites, but the one that comes to mind most is, I believe it's Romans 8:28, and it says, and we know that all things work for the good of those that love Christ, that love him, and who are called by according to his purpose. Mm-hmm. Because I remember I had to just almost hang on to the hem of his garment. And yes. So I knew that, whatever I'm going through right now, Lord, it's temporary. Yeah. And I had to believe that. And I said, you know what, Lord, I'm going to, that I love you, and I'm going to serve you, and I'm going to seek you, and I'm going to be doing what you've called me to do while you clean up my mess, while you clean up this mm-hmm. whole thing that whatever it is that it's called. And I said, and I know that you're going to work on my behalf, and I know all mm-hmm. things are going to work out. Maybe I don't understand it, and I may never understand yes. it. I don't understand, how I could have a 21-year marriage, 25-year relationship, because when I was younger, I thought, why would anybody divorce after so many years? It's almost like you become one. Yeah. Sometimes you're with them longer than you're without them. And so I said, you know what? I said, I know all things are going to work out. You say in your word that all things. And so that, I have to say, is one of my favorites, mm-hmm. because I've seen how it all has worked out for my good.
And, thank you for sharing that, because I know that there's probably somebody right now watching this that can connect on what you've gone through. The whole thing about wanting to be pregnant and not being able to be pregnant, being in a long relationship thinking everything is good, and yet, divorce happens. The fact that, you worked for so many things that you wanted to have in your life, and yet had to take a break and go back to kind of your humble beginnings, right. and kind of work from there. But even though through all of that, there's always a greater thing at the end. And, there is sunshine. There is a purpose out there for each and every one. So if you joined us today on the Muffin Madrina moment, we want to let you know that lasting relationships are possible,
Yes.
that you just cannot give up, that you need to continue, you need to fight, you need to question yourself and see, who am I having relationships with? Who are the people that I'm around? Do they pour positive things into my life? Do I have a relationship with God? Does that look like? And I know that there are points in where we question ourselves, and that, you know, there are areas in where you're going to connect with people physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And those are the areas as a person, as a human, that you want to look at. Okay.
Right.
So if you've never taken time to do that, please do so today. And I just want to thank my madrina because she got on here with me my first time on the segment of the Muffin Madrina Moments. And I know that we're going to be having some other ones coming up. So if this is your first time, please make sure that you share and like, and you join us next week on Thursday at the same time. And you'll never know who's going to be my guest. So once again, thank you. Have a nice evening. And my madrina, Sandra, loves and hugs to everyone. And thank you again for being here with us. Bye. Oh, and I want to say thank you. Before I forget, I want to thank Corey Ventress. He's our sound guy trying to make this all work. I want to thank my husband, who's the cameraman at the moment here, and just everybody who's been supportive in this process. I don't know where it'll take us, but I do know that the Muffin Madrina is here to stay and here to help you out. Have a good night.